Hello, welcome. My name is Chris, and normally on this channel I talk about fountain pens and inks and everything stationery related, but I also love to talk about books. And I just got done reading a book that completely blew my mind. It's Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and I just can't not talk about it. I have so much to say about this book that I wanted to come on and give kind of a book report, I guess you'd call it, a perfectly imperfect book report. So first off, this was published in 2017. I think it said, well, I don't know the month, but it's been out a while, and I had heard about it a few different places, and I thought I really should read this because I have a problem sleeping. I have a sleep problem. I've struggled with it off and on my entire life, and so I thought, well, I'm going to read it. At first, I wasn't going to because I wasn't sure if it was going to be self-help enough. And right off the bat, it is not. He even says this is not a self-help book. But what he does is present the science of what sleep does for us. And I am so glad that I didn't not pick it up just because it isn't a self-help book on how to sleep better. It has tips, and it definitely helps me because for me, if I can understand things, like when I learned about intermittent fasting and I learned about how blood sugar works and insulin and everything, that's all it took. I mean, that's all it took for me to totally, get it, why I needed to either fast or cut down on carbs or both. And, all of that science started to make sense. Well, that's what this book is doing for me in terms of sleep. I've learned so much that I think it's funny because he talks about how when we learn new things, we also need really good sleep in order to consolidate those memories and the new learning. And of course, I've been diligently working on sleeping well because I'm doing a super important project right now, helping my mom, supporting her and what she's going through. And I need my sleep to be able to talk to all these other professionals and do what I'm doing. Not to mention integrating a new cat into the household. I just, was naturally losing sleep during that time and was aware that I needed to do better. So I think I'm probably going to be all over the place in this video, and I don't care how long it is because I just think this topic is so important. So hopefully this will be of interest to you if sleep is of interest to you. I do have notes which I took in a little Oxford notebook. It's a little, I think it's it's A5 size and it's lined. So for the stationery people that are watching this and fountain pen people, and it is super cool. It actually works really good with my fountain pens so that I could have a little bit of basis to jump off of. But so he talks about how sleep is super complex and it has multiple purposes. It's in no way as simple as I always thought. And I knew a little bit about REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and how we dream and everything. And I've always normally been a vivid dreamer, except during that little pocket where I was, having too much caffeine, which those of you who follow me know that I dropped caffeine about 9 or 10 months ago with the idea that I might sleep better. And I have slept better since then. I still have sleep issues, but I fall asleep a little bit easier and I don't have the extreme issues that I used to have as caffeine got more of a hold on me. So that's just a little side note there. But he talks about how much our sleep kind of like integrates our memories and it takes things from our short-term memory and puts it in the long-term memory. It's like it does so much for us and is so vital. And it helps with decision making and it recalibrates our emotional well-being, which he had me with that because those of you who really know me know that also, I deal with some chronic low-grade depression, and I have some anxiety, usually situational, and ADHD has been, a part of my life since I got diagnosed when I was 40, but obviously it was a part of my life long before that. Just I'm older, and they didn't intervene. They didn't know with girls, for one thing. But after reading this book, as I've read this book, I've realized that it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You know, which came first, my sleep problems or my attention trouble? You know, it's blown my mind in ways that I just can't even explain. You know, or which came first, the chronic low-grade depression or this chronic sleep deprivation, you know. Very, very interesting. One of the other things that got me into the topic of sleep was that my niece gave me a Fitbit. She had upgraded to a different kind of a watch watch, anyway, that does all that, you know, that tracks your steps. And she knows I like to track my steps. Well, this thing tracks my sleep, and it's pretty disturbing when the total number of hours is sometimes okay, you know, although I was shocked that it falls below 8 so often. But the thing that got me was when you get into the app and you can really look at your sleep and see how many times you were awake and how many times you were restless, it is ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I knew that I was somebody who tossed and turned a lot and woke up quite a bit. And waking up, now that I'm off the caffeine, I can go back to sleep a little bit easier now, unless there's something really big going on that starts my brain thinking in the middle of the night, and then I'm hosed, basically. I just can't go back to sleep. Or it takes me like 2 hours or an hour, which, you know, I think he talks about anything more than 20 minutes to go back to sleep, 20 to 30 minutes. It's very detrimental, even your initial falling asleep. And I'm someone who now, I understand myself so well that I will read for a couple hours every evening. I get off the screens. I don't take any chances with being all riled up and unable to sleep. So I'll do everything I possibly can to set myself up for a good night's sleep. But, oh dear, I knew it was going to be like this. I hope you either bear with me or find a different video review. Let's see. I wrote down that sleep, diet, nutrition, and exercise are the health trinity, and he talks about that. It's not like sleep is everything. You have to work at it from all angles. But what I most like about his philosophy is it's very naturalistic. It's about getting natural sleep. He doesn't really promote sleeping pills, although he does talk a lot about them and talks about that in detail. And I didn't skip that chapter. I read the book page, from cover to cover, and it just blows my mind. Some of my other notes that I wrote down here. We talked about it does things for your brain and your body. Sleep enriches your learning, it helps your decision making and recalibrates emotional well-being. But then he talked about with your body, it helps your immune system, it restocks that, and it balances insulin and glucose. So there's that element where not only can a person work on what you're eating and when you're eating, but getting good sleep, can you believe it? Has something to do with that. And regulates appetite, which is also huge. Maintains your microbiome, in your gut, and lowers your blood pressure, helps your heart. So it's quite, being that sleep is generally free, although I do remember those days when I was in the military and when I was working various jobs and there wasn't a choice about 12-hour shifts or when to be awake and when to be asleep. So it's a society thing too, and it's a career and work kind of a issue. Sometimes there are things we have to work around that we can't do anything about. And then he talks about dreams, how they're a neurochemical bath, soothing painful memories, melding together past and present knowledge, and inspiring creativity. Now, that's one of my biggest perks since I gave up caffeine, is that I'm remembering these dreams, and sometimes I just as soon not remember them. They can be pretty wacky, but there are times like when I'll have a really, really interesting family dream, like being back home, seeing dad again, and, stuff like that. And I wouldn't want to miss out on those. As a younger person, I used to write down my dreams all the time, and I remembered them. I had pretty good dream recall. So So then down here in a little box with red around it, I put sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and our body health each day. So, I mean, the book is so rich in, things that I could have written down. I didn't take notes at all when I first read through it. These notes were all after having read it cover to cover. And my sleep was fairly good during the reading of this book. So I may be a little bit better integrated with memories about it because of that, because we got past a rough spot with our cat that we're introducing into the family, and things for Mom had settled down, so I was sleeping pretty good. In fact, he says that if you're going to have surgery, you should ask your surgeon how they sleep or how they slept before the night before, which I thought was really kind of funny, but also kind of scary. Let's see. He goes over and talks a lot about how we're all different in when we sleep. We have this biological clock, and some people are morning larks, and some are night owls, and some are in between. Well, I have moved from being somebody who was kind of in between to a complete morning lark, and I don't know how that happened, although I think his name is Coco, my cat, he's not my oldest cat. He's the middle child, because Princess is 6 and he's 4. When we got Coco, my sleep completely changed because he is just an early bird and very vocal. He's part Siamese. So everything changed. And for me, if you had told me years ago that I would someday get up at 5 every morning, I would have said you were nuts. But since getting Coco, that's pretty much what happens. So I've had to kind of adjust to a much earlier bedtime in order to give myself even an 8-hour window to be sure, because I used to read till like 10, maybe even 11. And then now that I work from home, I had that luxury of it didn't really matter most mornings until we got Coco, what time I got up. But he's pretty persistent, and locking him on one side of the house or keeping him out of our bedroom, it has not worked. It's like having a Tasmanian devil loose against one of the old wooden doors, He's going to get you up if he wants to. So, and there's lots and lots of technical detail in this book, and yet it never bored me. And keep in mind, I do have attention, issues, and so sometimes I can't get through a book if it's just not written in such a way that it flows, and this book really does. I highly recommend it. If you're interested in sleep and learning the science and having that be one of your motivators, or even if you have a child that can't sleep well or someone in your life with sleep issues, this is a really fantastic book. I learned a lot more about the sleep phases, and I used to think that the dreaming was mostly just all in the morning, but because for me, I recall the dreams, I guess maybe that were in the early morning if I'd wake up. But he does talk about how we have the rapid eye movement part of our sleep throughout our 90-minute sleep cycles throughout the, say, 8 hours of the night. But the REM sleep, or the rapid eye movement, that's heavy on the second half of your sleeping. So your non-rapid eye movement sleep, the deeper sleep, where memory is processed and files are transferred in the brain, that's the first half of the night, according to him, or the first half of your sleeping. So if you only get 4 or 5 hours, you're really going to get cheated out of quite a bit of your REM sleep, which he talks about integrating and problem solving. And he actually talks about these 3 things right here. I'll see if I can put it. When you're awake, that's reception or receiving information. And then when you're in the non-REM sleep, that's kind of a reflection. And then when you're in REM, it's integration. So I want to go back to that section and really kind of get into that again. But he covers absolutely everything. Even when rapid eye movement sleep happens, we're normally sort of paralyzed. We can't move. And so we don't act out our dreams. But with sleepwalking, and other sleep disorders. It can be very tragic, people can get hurt. And he talks all about that, about some cases, and really interesting. Then another note that I wrote down was page 161, getting too little sleep across the adult lifespan significantly increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease. And he says in no way is it the only risk factor, but it is one that they believe that with improved sleep throughout the lifespan of a person, that it may decrease the incidence of Alzheimer's, which is, there's no cure at this time. So that's big. But that part in the book where he talked about poor sleep being linked to so many things like depression, ADHD, and anxiety, that really got me alert and realizing that it could be a big component if I can improve my sleep, toward, just like lowering like sugar and working on getting rid of caffeine and lots of little things like that. But it seems like sleep would be an even bigger pillar if I could improve that enough. And that's the reason I read the book, was thinking I need to learn. I want to learn more so I can do better. And here's a quote, not a direct quote, but part of a quote where he said that they can't find a psychiatric condition where sleep is normal or good. Now that is pretty astounding right there. Shows you how big this could be, if we can get like massive improvements for everybody in sleep. And of course he talks about the tragic things too, like car accidents and mistakes in surgery, mistakes in medical realm. And it makes me think of the airline industry and the trucking industry, where they limit the amount of time that they can fly or drive, so that they have that sleep opportunity. But it's a little bit scary. There was a big segment in the book about how in medical training, excuse me, the residents, the people learning how to be doctors are just completely sleep deprived, and it's just absolutely insane that we let that happen, that be the way that people have to live when they're learning how to, save our lives, basically. That's just crazy. But so he's got quite a bit of, writing in the book about, the direction he'd like to see things go. Oh, and I forgot to say right off the bat, which should have been way at the beginning, that Matthew Walker is a professor of neuroscience and psychology at UC Berkeley. And he's also the director for the Center of Human Sleep Science. So he calls himself a sleep scientist, and that's just awesome. You will really enjoy hearing him talk, excuse me, in his podcasts, I believe, where he's been a guest on other people's. The first one that I heard was on Diary of a CEO. And then the second one, which I'm still listening to, it's like a 3-hour one, but it's not boring. It's just, I've had other things to do too, was with, I wrote his name down, Andrew Huebner. I hope I said his name right. Anyway, that one is even better. They really dig deep, and they're, the Diary of a CEO one was excellent too, but it was, believe it or not, like, I think it was an hour something, and it seemed too short. It was like, no, keep talking. And so this other one's like 3 hours, and it really dive in, asking questions that I would have liked to have asked. And that's the world we live in now. We can go on YouTube and dive very deeply into a subject that interests us. So, like I said, I found the book highly readable from cover to cover. I don't remember it dragging at all. I remember a couple of nights where I fell asleep reading it, but he already said, like in chapter 1, if you fall asleep reading this, yay, I'm glad to, that's great. I've done my job, in other words. So that was cool. Now, in the back, it has a good index, and that's another, to me, when I buy a book, either I want a super detailed table of context so that I can, I understand where I'm going to be able to find things again. And this table of contents is okay. Table of contents is okay, but you know, it's got really catchy titles like caffeine, jet lag, and melatonin. And so I could probably find some of what I was looking for there. Your mother and Shakespeare knew. In other words, you're not going to rely on the table of contents for finding specific things as much as you will in this, your index, which is excellent. It's several pages. You can go to REM sleep and find that. You can look at caffeine. You can cross-reference. And so a good index in my book is, that's something I look for. Either that or a highly detailed table in the front. So this is a keeper book for me. It's got references for websites where you can look further into things. In fact, I think I did some page foldovers. I was too lazy to get up and get I think one of these foldovers tells where to go for more tips. But in the back of this book, I have it tabbed with a little orange thing. There's 12 tips for healthy sleep. I guess we could kind of talk about some of those because, you know, they're pretty, you see tips for sleeping better everywhere. You know, and I didn't maybe see too much new here, but it's pretty comprehensive and it's good. The first one is stick to a sleep schedule, you know, going to bed and waking up at the same time each day. And that's where a person like me who typically has a lot of trouble sleeping, that can be problematic because if you know you just got 5 hours sleep, but it's time to get up, it's rough. But if you go ahead and get up, then you have a better chance of sleeping the next night. Okay. There, I had to go hydrate. Okay, so he talks about set an alarm for bedtime. Yeah, now I don't actually do that, but I have my eye on the clock for between 8 and 9. I need to be in bed, and what I realized is I really need to be in bed by 8:30 if I expect to get anywhere close to 8 hours sleep because 5 o'clock is my my cat alarm. So, you know, I'm kind of stuck with that. And so I've really been working on that while I've been reading this book over the course of a good week. And my Fitbit is reflecting that. I'm actually seeing an improvement. You get a green star anytime you hit your goal for sleep. And I don't get very many of the full 8-hour green, a green star, but I get quite a few nowadays I see that I'm closer and closer, like 7 hours, 45 minutes, whatever. So I'm getting closer. Number 2, exercise is great, but not too late in the day. That's definitely one that I've heard before. And it's true. During the warmer weather, I'll mow the lawn, and if it's like it's super hot, it'll be 7 o'clock, and I'm all wound up for 2 or 3 hours after I go out there and mow and trim and everything like that. So it's kind of bad news for a hot climate. In fact, I find that my sleep schedule changes when it stays light so long, in the summer, which it's not easy for someone like me because I'm really more regimented toward, precise and not deviating from the certain, schedules and things. But I was thinking about that while I was reading the book, like, oh, pretty soon it's going to be light until 9 o'clock and I'm going to be, back having to sort of adjust again. And then don't even talk to me about the time change. I hate the time change. Okay, so number 3 is avoid caffeine and nicotine. And that's something that I did my human experiment on myself, and I haven't turned back. Even though I love the way caffeine kind of, it does something for my brain. I felt like it did help me, especially not deep into it where I was needing 2 cups to, needing a second cup of coffee just to feel like I had that brain power. But initially I felt like it was really helping me. And so I thought I was really going to miss it, but I don't because I have a more steady, even, I'm pretty high energy anyway, either that or I'm asleep. So, okay, so number 4, avoid alcoholic drinks before bed. So I've heard that. I've never drank because I thought that that would be a recipe for disaster. So I just never have. So I feel like I can't speak to that. I have no idea. And then number 5, avoid large meals and beverages late at night. Okay, this is interesting because I felt an improvement to my own sleep when I started doing the intermittent fasting. And because I actually have a weird schedule, and I cut off my eating at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It works for me. I have that middle of the day eating window, and it has really worked for me. At least I haven't, I've not returned to the problems that I was having prior, and I've kept most of the weight off. I'm back up to like 135 now, but I was down way too low before, and I just wasn't quite. Anyway, I digress. That's totally off the subject. But I do feel better having, and because I go to bed so early, it kind of makes sense. If I'm going to go to bed between 8 and 9, I definitely don't want to be eating late. And I like a good hearty meal when I eat. So I kind of enjoying my intermittent fasting kind of thing. All right, number 6, if possible, avoid medicines that delay or disrupt your sleep. Some commonly prescribed are blood pressure, asthma medicine, over-the-counter herbal. Okay, I don't take any kind of medication. I just take multivitamins, magnesium supplement, and what else is it? Oh, krill oil. So I don't really, it's been years since I've taken any medications. Okay, number 7, don't take naps after 3 p.m. Naps can help make up for lost sleep, but late afternoon naps can make it harder to fall asleep. Yeah, I don't dare, because I've experimented with that too, tried to take a nap, and first off, it's really hard for me to get to that stage where I could take a nap. I have to be pretty sleep deprived, but then it makes a vicious cycle. So I just try to read or just settle down versus taking a nap. Okay, number 8, relax before bed. Don't overschedule your day. Relaxing activities such as reading or listening to music should be part of your bedtime ritual. I've tried the music thing, and I go down rabbit holes and end up, rocking around the clock. So forget that. Reading is basically the only thing, other than maybe coloring. Sometimes when I couldn't read, I would do coloring with colored pencils. Number 9, take a hot bath before bed. A drop in body temperature after getting out of the bath may help you feel sleepy, and the bath can relax and slow you down. I'm a morning showerer. I don't know. If I was desperate and I was looking for one more strong, maybe it would work, but no, I have to have the shower in the morning to kind of wake up, and my hair, I don't like to sleep on my hair, Anyway, it gets greasy. Number 10, dark bedroom, cool bedroom, gadget-free bedroom. Get rid of anything in your bedroom that might distract you from sleep. Yeah, Manuel and I finally get along. He has changed. He used to be a complete night owl, and so we were just on opposite ends. In fact, he worked a graveyard shift for years, so we were just, why make the bed? Just one gets up, the other one goes to bed. That kind of thing for years. But now he likes to go to bed earlier too, and plus Coco's waking him up at 5 too. He can't help but hear all of the ruckus that happens, So number 11, have the right sunlight exposure. Daylight is key to regulating sleep patterns. Get outside in natural light for at least 30 minutes each day. I feel like, for mental health, I have to do that. Even when it's cold, I really like the natural light. I really love natural light. Sleep experts recommend if you have trouble falling asleep, you should get an hour of exposure to morning sunlight and turn down the lights before bed. And then number 12, don't lie in bed awake. Now, this one is a hard one because he recommends if you're still awake after 20 minutes, or you're starting to feel anxious or worried, get up and do some relaxing activity. Well, I have flipped on the little lamp, the little pinup lamp, and done some reading when it was just desperate. Like I cannot sleep, but I can't get up and clean the house because then I know I'll never sleep. And Manuel is not bothered by light or anything like that. So he tells me, just go ahead, turn on the light and read and see if you can get sleepy that way. But I don't actually think getting up is Yeah. Anyway, those are the tips, and they're all really good tips. And there's more, like there's references in this book that'll send you to various websites that are really helpful too. I think I wanted to tell a couple of little stories about, kind of about how bad it can get for my sleep. Probably the worst time in my whole entire life that I remember was when I went to basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. I was 20, I think. Yeah, well, let's put it down. That's as close as my memory can give you. Apparently, I didn't sleep well enough to consolidate my memories back then. And I could not sleep in the, we were, let's see, bunks. And I was in the lower one, and I just couldn't sleep. It was a different place. There was a lot of noise. There were lights. There were, people had to patrol with flashlights every whatever. And I'm one of the people. And for the first 3 nights, I just couldn't sleep. Likely I did sort of pass out for moments at a time. I probably wouldn't have made it if I hadn't. But I still remember then, like, I think it was like the 4th night, I passed out. My glasses were underneath my bunk, and I got yelled at for having, because I started out with long hair when I went to basic training, and I had this little thing that I could pin it up with real easily, and got in trouble for that. But somehow after that, when I finally was sleep deprived enough, I started to sleep, and that helped a lot, I'm sure, with the training, because I thought I wasn't. I was just a zombie. I imagine it wasn't the only one, but we didn't have time to talk about it. So, and then, let's see, another time I remember, it had been years since I had gone home to Vermont. It was a segment of time when I had left the military and we were trying to get established in civilian jobs down here in Texas, and also having a child in school, and my parents' schedules too. And it had been several years since I'd been able to visit. And the big excitement of flying up there with my son, who was, I think, 7 years old at the time, something like that. Anyway, I couldn't sleep. And it was really dire because I had a rental car. And oh my goodness, as much as I love to drive the back roads in Vermont, I didn't even feel safe, driving the car. So I still remember I got some kind of, probably somebody recommended that I get Tylenol PM. And that was a big mistake because I had to go to the bathroom, and I'm sleeping on at this time, like it was a pull-out bed in my dad's living room, and I thought, oh, I can't move. I felt like I couldn't move. And I thought, oh my Lord, I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And, I had to pee. And I don't know how I got down there because the trailer is long. And, it's like, I don't know how many feet to the bathroom. 40 feet probably, at least. And I was like, oh, never again am I going to take that medicine. And finally, I guess just being there long enough, because we were there 2 or 3 weeks, I finally started to sleep, probably out of sleep deprivation or whatever. But so I've always known that in a new environment or in any kind of excitement, whether good, bad, or in between, sleep is just like, it's tough. It can be really tough. And you can't just not do things in life, stay home all the time, never travel, never do anything. So is anybody relating to this? I'm sure you are, because to my way, throughout my life, I've talked to a lot of people, and I know sleep is an issue. And I have a loved one right now going through something. I'm not going to say what or who or anything, and so sleep is an issue for them in that aspect I talked about waking up, and this problem, an ongoing thing, is just blast into your brain. And I find that journaling really helps with that, getting as much out as I possibly can. That way it's like when you start to think about it, you've already written down, you've already made some lists, you're considering things, you're working the problem, and you've got it on paper. That does really help, I think, with the sleeping. But I've always been a little bit afraid of myself in terms of what I felt like could happen to me if I didn't sleep, because the dingbatness and the feeling like I can't think, and you get grumpy. I mean, beyond the normal grumpy if you don't if I don't sleep right. So anyway, gee, I never did read the subtitle to this. The subtitle on the book is Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. Yeah, it's too vast to cover in a 30-minute book report or, it really is, but it's well worth your time to either read the book or listen to the audiobook or listen to one of the podcasts where, and I'll link a couple of them down below. He also did a Google Talk, which was really cool. But the Google Talk left me wanting more, too. So it was really that long interview with Andrew Huebner, I think is his name. That's the one that I also felt like I learned the most from. And, I wasn't going to do this till I had gone back through the book and taken better notes and tried to do super comprehensive on the book. But then I thought, no, it's too good a book to delay when, for myself, if somebody that I watch or that I know personally or feel like I know personally recommends a book, I kind of like to, or, I can go watch videos that have to do with the subject. It's important information to get out there, and if you have any suggestions on like really good sleep suggestions or, improving sleep suggestions or other books that might be more self-help oriented than this one, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I really would. It's going to be a subject that I don't leave right away. Kind of like with the intermittent fasting, I still kind of delve in and study the various parts because to me, knowledge and understanding science, that's where it motivates me the most. It's like, you could tell me that sleep is really good for me and that it could be really bad if I don't get enough. But the real specifics of because he goes into the specifics of the sleep studies and how the percentage of what people will remember if they put them through these controlled sleep studies. And it's just fascinating. I mean, it's scary and fascinating too. So I think probably I've gone on as long as I should about the book, but I just really wanted to talk about it because I'm trying to think of the last book that was this exciting to me. Probably, the one, I'm looking back there, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. The one by Jason Fung. I'm going to completely blank on the title. It's The Obesity Code. There. See, those memories are filed up there, but apparently that was a bad night's sleep. Oh my gosh. That really made an impression on me, thinking, I've always known since I was younger that if you study something and then you go have a good night's sleep, that you'll have pretty good recall. But I never understood it before. I never quite grasped that idea, So, yeah, I could ramble on for absolute ever, but I think that does it. I don't think I've ever really read another book just dedicated to sleep. But I'm certainly glad I read this, and I have it all like dog-eared and everything, and I'll go back through because I'm really interested in, trying to make some more further connections. But in the meantime, I'm using my Fitbit and my sleep schedule and every little tip I can get a hold of to try to just improve my sleep. I have really good health, I think, overall. And so I must be kind of averaging out fairly well, not horribly, but still with these other things that I thought were conditions like ADHD and depression and anxiety and things like that, where I noticed a lot of it lift with the absence of caffeine. I'm thinking with better sleep, I may see a departure of a percentage of some of those things that have been kind of bugging me, all my adult life. My mom's feeling better now, so I'm going to ask her some questions about my sleep. I remember more about how my brother slept. I don't remember very much about my sleep as a child. I just remember that they did put us to bed pretty early, And I would sneak and put a flashlight to read, because I mean, I couldn't go to sleep at 6 o'clock, and not, at least not when I was like in 5th and 6th grade, and you know, a little bit older. But I'm interested, because Mom usually remembers a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna try to ask her if she remembers generally what kind of a sleeper I was, you know. Anyway, that's just silly. I'll see you on the next video, which I am already planning to shoot as soon as I get this one up. So, and let me know in the comments what you think about the book, if you've read it, and if there are other good recommendations you have. I'd love to hear about it. Bye for now.